This tutorial will go over slightly more advanced concepts, ideas, and techniques regarding specifically the tank tussle mod pack, which will be in the Discord in the video description. It is going to pick up basically where the previous tutorial left off, so it assumes that you have made a functional tank and you understand everything covered in that tutorial, which will also be linked in the video description if you haven't seen already. So the first thing we have to cover is the toolgun. This is very, very important, and this is the Valkyrian mod toolgun. When you pick it up, you'll see it says top left, press tab to open and close GUI. And when you press tab, it will open up a bunch of options. In the basic tutorial, I showed, I think it was just this one, disable collisions, and then also a schematic. To go over these a little bit more, I showed how you can save and load schematics. That is pretty simple. If you want to delete a schematic, the only way you can do that is not through here. You have to go into your actual file system, and you have to go into your mod pack, and then VMod schematics, and delete the actual file itself. And this is also true for if you want to load someone else's schematic. You just put the file into that folder and it will show up here. Now, disable collisions, which I went over very briefly. I showed how it can be used to no-clip your turret and your hull. Like, for example, if we were to drop this turret down, you can see there's all this stuff here that would not fit in this tiny space. But if we disable the collisions between the turret and the hull, then it will just not care, and it will allow it to clip into each other. Another thing you can do is to disable collisions between the hull ship and the world. And this will make it so you can kind of almost drive through blocks. This is a bit of an extreme example, but let's say we have this tank here, and it has some blocks which are too low to go over one block. So see, if we try to drive into it, it will butt up against the block, and obviously you can't drive. But if we disable collisions by, again, pressing tab, going to disable collisions, left-clicking the hull and then the world, then these blocks will not collide. They can go through each other, and then you can actually drive straight over it with no issues. So those are the two main uses of the disable collisions functionality of the toolgun. Another one to look at is the connections, which is at the top here. And what this does, it will basically weld two ships together, or a ship to the world. So we have this turret which spins freely. If we wanted to stop spinning for whatever reason, let's say we wanted to lock it at this angle exactly. What we can do is take the connections, we can left click on one ship and left click on the other ship, and it creates this kind of weld between them. So now the turret will not spin. And you can change a bunch of settings here. Like, for example, we can make the width much smaller. I like 0.03. We can make it translucent. Let's go with 50. And now you can see it changes it, so you can kind of barely see it, and also it's much thinner now. This doesn't seem that useful right now, but it will be very useful later for some of the other things that I'm going to talk about. Now, how do you get rid of something like a connection or a rope? There is another functionality, which is strip, and there are two strip modes. There is strip all and strip in radius. Generally, you should use strip in radius if you can help it. This will literally remove any connections in a certain radius where you click. So you can see when we remove that one, these two are still here. We can remove this one as well. If you strip all, it will strip all the connections on the ship it is on, including it will enable collisions between any ships. So these two ships, the turret and the hull, now have collision with each other, and you'll have to disable them again, like so. Which isn't really a big deal, but it's something to watch out for, which is why I like to use the radius when possible. So that's everything in the toolgun that's kind of mostly useful. There's a bunch of other stuff, but you shouldn't need basically any of these unless you're doing very specific builds, very specialized builds. Next thing we're going to look at is the mod Tallyho, which is in this egg creative tab. It has a bunch of stuff here, which I'm going to go over most of it, all the useful things again. So first we have the hydraulic transmission, and this is basically a redstone resistor. The difference is that the redstone resistor, the more redstone power you give it, the slower it moves. On the flip side, the hydraulic transmission, the more redstone power you give it, the faster it moves. So it's basically inverted, and this will be, again, useful later for something else that I'm going to talk about. Next in Tallyho, we're going to look at the ripple block, and it's going to be used to fire all of the missiles and bombs and things that Tallyho adds. For it to work, it has to be on a ship, so I'm just going to shipify it real quick, and then put it right there. And the way it works is that when you give it redstone power, it will fire off one of any missiles that are nearby. So you see it just fires off one of them, and even though it's not all that close, it'll still, kind of detect it. Speaking of missiles, there's a bunch, so let's go over all of them. First we have the AIM-9 Lima and the FIM-92, which is the Stinger. And the way these work is that it will look for a ship within its kind of field of view, and it will automatically track towards it. So even if we point it a little bit away from our tank, you can see when it fires, it will automatically curve a little bit and hit the tank by itself. The difference is the AIM-9 is much faster and it has a lot more explosive power, but it's also not allowed in free play in the tank tussle events, so use this one, the FIM-92. And they actually have quite a big field of view, so you can see even if we point it a good bit away, it will still kind of find the tank. But again, they don't do too much damage, so they're kind of useful in certain situations, but not really all around. Next one we're going to look at is the Katyusha, which is a unguided rocket. It has a lot of gravity, so you have to point it really far upwards to actually hit anything. So like you'll see if I point it kind of directly horizontal, it will go absolutely freaking nowhere. But if we point it up a bit, then we can actually maybe hit something here. Let's see if we can hit the tank. That's actually pretty close. So they have a good amount of explosive power, but again, they're very inaccurate, as you can see. And they also have, again, a lot of gravity. Next, we have a few bombs. So basically all of these, they are, you drop them and they fall and they explode, and that's basically it. There's two kinds which are laser guided here, the GPU 12 and the 24. But to guide the GPUs, the easiest way is with the laser designator, also from Tallyho. And the way it works is that when you hold right click, we'll bring up this kind of scope here. When you hold X, it gives you this crosshair, and it will guide the bomb towards wherever you're looking. So I'm going to drop it, I'm going to switch to laser designator, and guide it towards the tank there. Let's see if we can do this right. It's hard to see, but it did curve, and then hit exactly where I pointed towards. And the same is true, again, for the GP24. I'm just not going to drop it because it's massive. Then we have a few kinds of dumb bombs, which are unguided. Without explaining too much, we have the M64, which is just high explosive. The Mark 77, which is incendiary. It is a fire warhead. Then we have the Snake Eye, which is also just a normal bomb, but it has it is basically like a parachute to slow it down as it falls, as you can see. Next, we have the AGM-88. This is a HARM, an anti-radiation missile, so it will seek out radars, but they're not in this mod pack, so it is currently just a big rocket, basically. So you can see the explosion is huge, but it is unguided, at least for this mod pack. Next, let's look at the turret remote, and when you place it, it will create the 30mm gun from the AH-64 Apache. So if you right-click again, you can open it, and you can actually shoot with it. And also it is used to guide certain other missiles, such as the ABKWS, the AGM-114, and the other one, the other variant. So if we place one of them down, let's do this one, they're all the same. Rather, the operation is all the same. I'll show you the differences after. If we open the remote and we press X, just like the laser designator, it will give us the crosshair to show it's guiding. So if we fire the missile and then hold X, you can see it curves towards where we aim. So we have the ABKWS and the AGM-114B. These are shape charge warheads, which means that they have a basically an armor penetrating warhead. And then we have the 114M, which is a blast fragmentation warhead, basically just a high explosive warhead. So it just creates a big explosion compared to the other two here. If this sounds complicated, you don't have to worry about it all too much, because none of this is legal in tank tussle events. The ones you should worry about are these, the 3 tow missiles. So these are anti-tank guided missiles. These are designed for killing tanks, and that is what you are probably playing the mod pack for. The way you guide them is with the thermals block, which we'll look at now. So this is a scope block, basically. When you right click it, it will open up this nice view. It will highlight all ships and all entities, and it makes it really easy to see tanks, even if they're really small or partially hidden. You can see them really easily because they're obviously highlighted. So the tows all work the same. You put them down, and when you fire them, based on where you look with the thermals, it will guide them towards there. Let's actually try to hit this guy. You don't have to press anything. You don't have to like press X like you do with the laser designator or the remote. You just fire it, and wherever you look, it will go that way. And also you can zoom in. Some of the other scopes you can't zoom in with them, but this one you can. As for the tows themselves, we have the tow 2A, the 2B, and the BV. So we have the shape charge warhead, which basically gives it armor penetrating ability. We have a top attack warhead, so this will fly over the tank, and it will shoot downwards into the top of the tank, where the armor is usually thinner. although it can be less reliable, so most people just use the shape charge warhead. And then we have the high explosive warhead, which is again just a large explosion. This one is not great for killing tanks. That is what the 2A is for, and the 2A, actually both the 2B and the 2A. I actually want to see if I can get the top attack toe to work, because it's very cool when it does work. So you just point it normally at your target, and the missile will automatically fly a little bit higher over the tank, and then it will do its job for you. So we're just going to fire it. Let's look here, and that did in fact work. So hopefully you can see how it flies a little bit over, and then you can't see this part, but it shoots downwards into the tank, and there you have it. Now do note the thermals block, the scope has to be on the same ship as the ship you have your actual toes on. So if I have my thermals on this ship, and my missiles on the other one, the thermals don't know which missiles to guide, and the missiles don't know what's guiding them. So if I fire them, it will just not work. They won't guide correctly at all. So that's something to be careful of. But that is all of the munitions in Tallyho, I think. So let's look at some other blocks, such as the scope block, which is similar to the thermals, except when you go in, you can't look around, first of all. It's also not thermals. It is literally just a scope that you can look through. It gives you some zoom, and it gives you a nice crosshair to see what you're actually aiming at. But what it is good for is if you're in the tank, obviously, and you have a scope block, then the crosshair will move based on not only where you point it horizontally, but also if you move the gun up and down, then your crosshair will also move. So it's not just fixed looking straight ahead, it will actually move with your gun, and that makes it very, very useful and very easy to aim with it. And you will notice the scope is on the inside of the tank. Basically, whatever blocks you have in front of the scope, so we have this one, and then a bunch more through here. The position of the scope camera basically gets moved to the frontmost block. So if we just have it with no blocks in front of it, then the view is on the scope block itself. But if we put blocks in front of it, it will basically extend the scope view. So now the camera is going to be right here. So you can see if we go in the scope, then it is now we can see quickly out of it. So this means you can have it basically anywhere inside of your tank, and it will kind of go through the rest of it and allow you to see out of the front. The only thing is, if you have other ships or entities in the way, it won't see through them. It is just blocks. I should mention the thermals work kind of similar. It moves the view up to the top, so you can see our view is now on top of the tank instead of the front. Next, we have the coax MG and the hull MG. So first, let's look at the hull MG. When you place it, it will make a little machine gun here. And when you right-click it, it will open the machine gun. You can now look through it, move your camera, and if you left-click, you can shoot with it. And again, it will kind of go through blocks, like a few blocks, so you can put it on the inside of your tank and be, protected from the outside. The coax MG is sort of similar in that you put it down and makes a machine gun, but the difference is that when you give it redstone power, it will shoot instead. You don't control it manually. So you can see if we just put a lever here, it will shoot when you give it redstone power. And also it aims up and down by following your gun. So if you move the gun down, you can see the coax MG will move with it. If we point the gun up, then it will also shoot up. Neither of these do any damage to blocks. They are just for killing entities, so they're not all that useful. But you can use them for decoration on your tank. Let's finally move on from Tallyho, and we can look at bearings. So we have the mechanical bearing and the flat bearing. These are the two most common ones and the most useful. If you don't know, if you have a bearing and you assemble it, that block will briefly become an entity instead of being a normal block. And you can actually place other blocks inside of it while it's an entity. So if we right-click the side of the mechanical bearing, we drag it all the way to the right, only place when ink destroyed, which is never. If we turn the bearing, then now this is an entity, and we can put other blocks inside of it. And of course, the same is true for the flat bearing. The only difference is that you assemble it by just right-clicking it. You don't need to turn it at all, and you can now put blocks inside of it. Now, these angled blocks, they don't give you any armor. They're only useful for decoration, which is exactly what we're here for. You can use Create Superglue to assemble a bunch of blocks like this. We'll just turn it and give it some angle, and it will stay like this, and now you can have a nice slope on your tank. And you might be saying, okay, well, the mech bearing is great, mechanical bearing is great, because you can make angles, but how is the flat bearing useful? And the answer is that even though it only assembles to stationary, like this will not turn, you can't make a slope with it, it allows you to place other blocks inside of the assembled blocks. So we can now stack, in this case, a slab and a beam Whereas obviously without the bearing, you can't put them inside of each other. That doesn't work at all. So I'm going to demonstrate on the tutorial tank. It already has a very basic sloped front. We're going to replace this with a mechanical bearing slope, and I will show you why it's better in some cases than using frame blocks or copycats. And then we'll also build something on the turret using the flat bearing. So first, let's break all of this so we can put in our new upper front plate. We're going to place a crate mod mechanical bearing. And then we're also going to place a crate valve handle. Doesn't matter what color, obviously. Let's actually move this there. And what the valve handle allows you to do is set a very precise angle. So you can get the same angle every time, the correct angle. Don't forget to set this to all the way to the right. Only place when anchor destroyed, because otherwise, if you don't, when you turn it, it will just go back to being a block instantly. So let's take some blocks. I'll just throw them on here, and we'll see what it looks like first. If we use crate mod super glue to glue all these together, and then we turn the valve handle, it makes a slope. You can see it doesn't line up at all with anything, but we can assemble this. We can change the blocks on the bearing. Let's make it a copycat 12. Let's replace these, and now if we just extend this a little bit more, it might line up with this part. So let's try that. Let's take some copycat half layers. We will put them here. And don't forget to re-glue it so it includes all the blocks that you want. Now if we turn it, it almost lines up with the top part. We can either take this and just accept it, or we can use a framed collapsible copycat block, which I don't think I showed earlier. What this does is you can change the size of it from any side. So if we hammer it with a frame blocks frame hammer, it will make it smaller. If we shift left click, it will make it bigger. So we can resize it in any way and make it whatever size we want. Although it has to be a rectangular prism. It can't be, have angles. So in our case, let's take it to where we had it before. And then let's lose 1 pixel. So this is now 1 pixel shorter than it was before. And we can also do on this side to make it a half slab, basically. There we go. Let's put some blocks in there. And now it lines up a little bit better, possibly. If we want to get rid of this gap, we can assemble it again and shift left click to make it 1 pixel bigger. Assemble it. And now it lines up just about perfect, as you can see. So now let's just copy this over to the rest of our upper front plate here. And again, don't forget to glue everything that you actually want to be assembled. And then put these blocks back. And we have a nice sloped plate. So why does this matter? Who cares? Why can't we just use sloped frame blocks like we have here? Why would I use a bearing? And there's 2 reasons. First of all, we can put blocks, if you remember, inside of the bearing. So if you want to stack some decorative blocks in here, you can do that. When you can't do that in here, obviously, because they're solid blocks. You can fill up this whole space with whatever blocks you want and have, basically more room than you would otherwise. And the other thing is you can angle blocks that are not full blocks. So let's say we want to have something on the end here. We want this to be also angled with the armor plate. We can have it do that and just be part of the bearing. If you wanted to angle it on a slope made out of blocks, then you just can't. There's no way. And also you can get much finer control with the bearing because you can literally change exactly the angle you want it to be. Yeah, say I want it 1 degree less. We can do that. Now let's look at VS Clockwork flat bearings, which, if you remember, allows you to assemble blocks, but you can't turn them. So this is useful if you want to stack blocks inside of each other without having them turn. You don't need them to be turned or on an angle. So let's say, for example, we want to have a cupola with some periscopes around our hatch here. So if you build it like this, that looks great, but we can't put the armor blocks here because this, obviously, the decorative block is now in the way. So what we can do is turn the cupola into a bearing. I'm going to put some scaffolding blocks here, just so we can glue all of it, because all glued blocks need to be connected to one another. Glue all this up, and leave out the middle, because we don't want it to be on a bearing. Glue all of this, and then right-click the flat bearing once, and you'll see it changes a little bit. It's now assembled. And we can stack blocks inside of here, and the game will not care. I should also reiterate that you can put blocks inside of the mechanical bearing as well, not just the flat bearing. So if you assemble your upper front plate or whatever like this, you can put some of the armor back inside of here and have it be covered up by the angled part. So you still actually get some armor, because the angled part is not providing any armor. Now let's say we did want to have angled armor that actually works. How can we do that? And that is with using the phase bearing. We can have a phase bearing, we can assemble it. Let's put some blocks on here, and we can rotate it to the position we want. Let's put these back. And now we have a bit of angled armor, and this will actually stop shells. It will actually, you know, have collision with them and everything. So for example, on my mouse here, this entire upper front plate is a piece of angled armor. I'm using a phase bearing. So you can see it's actually solid blocks, and it will bounce shells, hopefully. Let's see if I can actually show a shell bouncing off the angled upper front plate. It's pretty cool. So you can see there, it hits the armor plate, and it bounces upwards and off while doing no damage. So it does work, and even if it doesn't bounce, it reduces the amount of damage that you actually take. So it's very useful. Although do note this counts as another ship, in tank console rules at least. You can only have 3 ships, so you can have a hull, a turret, and an angled piece of armor, and that's all you get. You can't, you know, spam it. Now I'm going to show something that I think more people need to use, like seriously. Even a lot of advanced players don't use this, and I don't know why. It's really good. And this is mouse aim. So we have normal aim here, using the arrow keys to turn the turret. And you can see it's, you know, it works, obviously. You can go left and right, and that's it. The issue is you get 1 speed with, you know, how you turn the turret. So your precision is kind of bad unless you want to slow down the turret a lot. The alternative is using mouse aim, which allows you to turn the turret very slowly, just a little bit, like I'm doing here. But you can still move it very a lot quicker if you want to, you know, turn the turret quicker. So it's kind of the best of both worlds in terms of, you know, being able to have whatever turret speed you want. And also it's just more intuitive if you're using your mouse to aim, which you do for most other games compared to using arrow keys, which can be kind of weird. So how you do this is actually very easy. You just need to make a few small modifications to your tank. So first of all, you're probably using inverted clutches in your transmission, which is fine. We're going to replace these with hydraulic transmissions. If you'll remember, these change their speed based on redstone power, kind of inverted with redstone resistors. So if we give it a little bit of redstone power, then it will move very slowly. If we give it a lot, then it will move much faster. But the question is, how do we control how much redstone power we give it? Because your arrow keys is only, you know, it's on or off. It's 15 or redstone power or 0. So we're going to hit escape, click on this button, go to controller configurations, and scroll down to your arrow keys. And you're instead going to bind these to your mouse inputs. So let's click on this, and literally just move our mouse to the right. Click on this, move our mouse to the left. This, mouse down, this, mouse up. And then also, this is very important, click on config, and check use velocity instead of position. And make sure you do this for all 4 of your new binds. And then don't forget to hit save. And now, when you open your controller and move your mouse, you look around, because that's how it works. What you also need to do is click escape, go to this button again, and instead of general configurations, and check this on. I think it's usually off by default. So make sure this is on, save and exit. And now when you open your controller, press left alt once by default. And now instead of looking around, it will move the joystick. And you can see that your tank also moves. And you can see if we move the mouse a little bit, the turret will move a little bit. And if we move it all the way, then it will move much faster. So that's very useful. And it's also very easy to do. Like, it doesn't take any more space in your tank. You can put it in basically anything. Last thing we're going to look at is cannon stacking. This is a method of fitting more firepower into your tank. So we have these 2 mounts here, these cannon mounts. And, you know, if we make a cannon, we can build a cannon here, and we can assemble it. And now we have a cannon. But you may notice you can place blocks inside of the cannon, because it is now an entity. Blocks including another cannon. If we build another cannon in here, you can't see it very well, but you sure can build it. And we assemble it with a different mount. Now we have 2 cannons here. So we can in fact load both of them. You can kind of hear it, the breach open twice. We can load both of them. And now we can fire them either individually. So there's one, and there's the other one. Or we can fire them both at once. In which case it will literally give you twice as much firepower. If you're using an autoloader, just make sure you select both of the cannons when you're building it. And that's that's literally all there is to it. It's super easy, and it gives you a ton more firepower. I know a lot of you were probably hoping for an autoloader tutorial, which is coming. I'm just going to put it in another video because the video is already too long, and autoloaders are very complicated, and there's a lot to talk about. So that will be coming soon-ish. I have no idea when. But that's going to do it for this video. Watch the previous tutorial, the basic tutorial, if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.